We are still in 7.38c, and in this video we're going to talk about every single carry hero, and we're going to rank them from the very top to the very worst. As usual, we're gonna have 6 categories in this tier list video. It's going to be the S, A, B, C, D, and of course we're gonna have the Dota, or my beloved one, Switch to League of Legends tier list. Let's not waste any more time and go.
Up and down, side to side like a roller coaster.
So we're gonna start showing the worst possible carry heroes, right? And of course, we're going to start with anti-mates. Yes, anti-mates. There's not a worst hero in Dota right now than anti-mates. You can play literally take his carry and it would have been better. That's the truth. Even if you get to play against Medusa, which it would be like a natural counter, and there are like many times that you get to last pick anti-mates against Medusa into Morphling and you still get to lose. And it's not necessarily about the player, it's about the hero itself as well. So please stay away from anti-mates. Laning stage is really bad, the mid game is really bad, requires so much time, and in the end, even if you're 6 slotted, somehow you're going to die and you're gonna lose the game. That's why anti-mates is really bad. Now we also have my really beloved Draw Ranger. The problem with Draw Ranger is similar to anti-mates. Takes a lot of time, and then all of a sudden we're playing in a meta that you're gonna get jumped on and you're going to die. The mid lane has a lot of Queen of Pains, a lot of Pugs, a lot of Earthshakers, a lot of Tinies, and as a result, well, Draw Ranger needs a lot of items. If you want to play carry like Draw and all of a sudden you need to buy something like a Hurricane Pike and the BKB just to survive in the beginning, then it's not really the best Draw game. So it maybe work out, but I would say that it's not really gonna work out. Now, there are many more heroes in this category like Marcy that is always a pretty bad hero to pick it, but if you're gonna play with a Wisp, then it's always S tier, Abaddon, Meepo. I think all these heroes are pretty bad, but now we're gonna go to the actual carries. And Faceless Void is also a really bad hero right now. Actually, Faceless Void has been bad for the last, I want to say, 5 years right now. Maybe it has some periods that it's not really that bad as a position 3, but never pick Faceless Void as a position 3. The same thing as Lina. Lina is basically another version of Draw Ranger. If you're playing in a meta that you're gonna get jumped on, definitely you really don't want to pick heroes like Lina and Draw Ranger, right? Now, in the same Switch to League of Legends category, we also have Chaos Knight, that this hero is unplayable. Chaos Knight, meanwhile, is one of my favorite heroes in the position 1 role, but this hero feels impossible, right? Even if you win the lane, what you end up doing is pretty much nothing. Most of the times you're gonna get a counter pick like Leshrac, but again, Puck, Queen of Pain, Tinies, pretty much everything kills your illusions right now. And of course, Juggernaut, I think Juggernaut, they should actually remove the hero from the game. It's actually even worse than the Faceless Void and the Anti-Mage, so definitely never pick Juggernaut. I think the hero, even in games that he gets to do pretty nice, he needs so many items. He gets countered so easily, items like Ghost Setter and Glimmer Cape, they get to counter him completely, so I would just stay always away from Juggernaut. Now we're gonna go to the D tier. Now the D tier are heroes that are almost as bad as the Switch to League of Legends tier, but maybe somehow under some circumstances it might work out. And of course, as you can see, we're gonna start with Bradmother. Now, is Bradmother all that bad? The answer is that she's not that bad, but after the switch from Universal to Agility, items like Echo Saber all of a sudden are just not that good. Maybe if you're like some kind of Bradmother expert, you can pull it off, and maybe you can just win a game or two, but I feel like you're gonna have a really hard time, especially with heroes like Earthshaker in the mid lane being meta. So yeah, yes, if you're a Brad expert, you can pick it, but I would just stay away from that. The same thing applies with Kez. Kez now is a late game hero, but I feel like he has the same problems as Juggernaut. Maybe not as many problems as Juggernaut, but he needs like a lot of lanes in the laning stage. And again, I'm not really a Kez expert, but I feel like he needs level 3, level 4 in the laning stage to start kicking in. But by the time you're level 3, level 4, well, the laning stage is already over. But I've seen some kids really pulling off some results, so yeah. But again, most of the times you get stunned, you get global, you're gonna have a really hard time. Now, moving on, we have Shadowpin Sniper and Muerta. These heroes are basically a better version of Draw Ranger, but again, they have the same problems as Draw. Maybe, for example, you have a better laning stage than them, and you can pull off some miracle, but I would just stay away from them because, well, you have the same problems as a Droiselina, you get jumped on and die. Maybe Muerta with a BKB, you can just probably win, but my experience, you're gonna have a real hard time. Heroes like Luna, I think Luna, it's always the same concept. You want to like farm for 20 minutes, but the meta is all about fighting right now, so you don't really have 20 minutes to fight, and people are constantly fighting all the time right now. As a result, it's really hard for you to find space. Everybody's gonna chase you, and well, you still die as a hero, so I don't know, I would just stay away from them. And the rest of the heroes have pretty much the same problem. For example, Naga, pretty bad hero. Weaver, same problems as the previous one. I think the problem with Weaver is like we've seen a lot of Slarks and Ursus MPAs, and well, you kind of struggle versus heroes, even though I do love Weaver as a hero. And all of these heroes are just don't pick them. And I'm actually pretty confident that Magnus is actually even worse than D tier, but yeah. Let's move on though to C tier. So the C tier is basically some heroes that you can win way more confident, and situationally they can be pretty good. And we're gonna start with Sven. So Sven is pretty similar in my head to a Tiny, to the old DK, maybe to a Luna when it comes to farming, right? So what you want to do is like go for 10-15 minutes AFK farm and come back with 3 items. Usually it's something like Echo Saber, Crystals, Dagger, and then you just buy something like BKB, but of course you can buy Axe and Silver Edge, right? And what you want to do is win a fight and then just end the game. That's pretty much it, right? Now I'm gonna put NS here. I have some great results with NS. Of course, it's situationally good. What you wanna do is like snowball from the laning stage, pick up a fast Midas, and pretty much that's it. If you don't know how to play NS, stay away from that. It's not a traditional carry, right? Now we have Monkey King. Monkey King, I feel like it's a great hero, and now you might think there are like many heroes like Axe and Centaur and Dawnbreakers, and why don't we see more Monkey Kings? Well, in reality, usually the mid laner is going to rotate to you and you're gonna die, and actually Monkey King doesn't really farm all that fast, right? In theory, Monkey King should be a hero that's going to win laning stage and then snowball and fight constantly and should fit the meta, but the results proves otherwise, right? He doesn't always get to win the lane, he doesn't always get to snowball really fast, and actually if you die a couple of times, then you have no game. Wraith King is also a really interesting hero because it's also somewhat of a high tempo. Of course, we get to see more position 3 Wraith Kings, but the builds are similar. You buy Radiance, you buy Dagger, you buy BKB, and then something like a Bloodthorn or an AC, maybe even both, like an Abyssal. I feel like the Wraith King is the type of hero that I would just love to have if I have something like a Medusa 3 or something like a Tiny in the mid lane, so I'm not really going to carry the game individually myself. Spec, great hero for pubs, low skill hero, I'd say, especially if you're like 2-3k MMR, really good pick, and I think it has some really good potential, right? So Spec actually is somewhere between B and C tier, just because it's a noob friendly, especially like the lower MMR games, the more chance you have to actually win. Now we have Gyrocopter. Gyrocopter is actually fine if you get to play against Enigma. It's the ultimate counter in the laning stage, you should just consider it. That's why we said C tier is actually situationally good, right? Razor, again, is really nice if you get to play against like for example, if you get to play against Sven or you get to play against Gyrocopter, Razor can actually be pretty nice. Actually, it's a classic counter. That's why we said that this C tier is situationally good. Clinks, great hero, I love him. I always love to have Clinks in the lane stage. Now we know that Beastmaster is like S tier offlaner right now, and Clinks is a natural counter because you can just death pack the creep, right? And you just get out of the laning stage with 5-6k net worth, and Beastmaster is not really a problem if he's playing from behind. So that's actually a pretty nice counter to Beastmaster. And now I've put it actually, I'm gonna go with the Troll Warlord. I think Troll is C tier because there are just too many Glimmer Capes, too many Ghost Scepters, and well, you get to buy Axe at some point. Of course, you wanna get Battle Fury unless you get to play against some kind of Morphling and you buy Maelstrom usually, right? And now we have also Kunkka and Queen of Pain. Again, Kunkka and Queen of Pain are similar to Red King and NS. It's more like I'm not really carry, but if someone else can just buy items in the mid lane or in the off lane, I can just play high tempo and just snowball, which basically is what Monkey King does, but he just doesn't do that well. Now we're gonna go to the B tier and we have Dragonite, Terrorblade, Lifestealer, Bloodseeker, Beastmaster, Tiny, and Medusa. And what do all of the above heroes have in common? They have a solid laning stage, not necessarily a one that they're going to kill, but the one that you will definitely get out with a lot of farm. And B, you don't really need a lot of items. Usually you need like 1-2 items and then you can just start fighting, or you can start split pushing, which is basically the same thing. You create space. So Dragonite, you always want to go for the Frost facet, right? I've seen some guys really going for the Poison, but I really don't like. I don't think it's really that good, right? The problem with DK is that he's actually too slow. Yeah, you buy items, but other heroes just buy items faster, and when you have the same amount of net worth, well, basically you just lose. That's pretty much it, right? So that's a problem with DK. I still like him, and I still find him extremely good in the mid lane, for example, if you play against this type of pack, right, which is like a natural counter. Now we have Terrorblade. Now the problem I'm having with Terrorblade is that not necessarily that the hero is bad, but the players are always bad with the hero. Okay, so it's like a patch position 5. Is patch position 5 bad? No, but you never want to have a position 5 patch in your team, right? So I never like Terrorblade in my team. Usually they just buy the wrong items, they just don't split push enough, they just don't execute well, and it's not necessarily the player's fault, but you have to perform really well to actually win as Terrorblade. So why would you just pick Terrorblade? Hero is decent, but most likely you're going to be bad with the hero. Now we have my beloved Lifestealer, and actually I love Lifestealer a lot. I think that even after the nerfs on the Aghanims that now you don't get to disarm, you have some really bad carry matchups, right? But still I think Lifestealer can be really nice, especially if you get to play against high magical damage heroes, and Aghanims can still be fine. You can still hide in the BKB duration, but you just don't get to disarm enemies. So you can still buy the Radiance and Aghanims, and even later like BKB, but usually what you want to buy is something like Radiance, SNY, Aghanims, Basir, and then just snowball from there. Most likely you're going to have a decent game as Lifestealer. Now I'm gonna go to Bloodseeker, which I played a couple of games the other day, and I think Bloodseeker can be really nice. The new Aghanim setter actually makes him a decent right clicker, and I think that Bloodseeker has a lot of potential, as long as you're gonna be a really good Bloodseeker player as well. Now, what's a build? I like a Mjolnir into BKB into Aghanims, and you're gonna buy Shard at some point and Basir. And in reality, in the past, we used to have a magical Bloodseeker. Now we're going to have a right-click Bloodseeker. I think the new Aghanim Scepter on Bloodseeker actually is pretty decent. Now we're gonna have Beastmaster, and I think Beastmaster is a really better version of NS and Kunkka and Queen of Pain and all these heroes, and in reality you just get to win the laning stage, get a couple of items and just snowball and play high tempo. Probably Beastmaster is the best hero by far. Why? Well, you get to buy just Ags and then just run them down, and you just get to pick up Roshan fast and Tormentor really fast, and you can get to rush a Blink Dagger and just find pickoffs. So basically Beastmaster is in a really good spot, but most likely his Ags is gonna get nerfed soon, right? Tiny is still a fine hero, right? Still like Echo Saber, Shadow Blade, you just get to run them on the map, but you just get to lose to the A tier and the S tier, so that's pretty much it, right? And of course we have Medusa. Pretty weird hero. I think you can just get to pull it off, right? I think Medusa is still pretty nice. Get a couple of items, usually something like Manta, Butterfly, and then just try end the game. I think the reason why Medusa is pretty nice, we get to see a lot of Keeper of the Lights lately, and we get to see some Lions. So definitely Medusa, you can just you have some great synergies, and you just never die. So yeah, Medusa is still a fine hero. Now we're gonna go to the A tier, and basically A tier are 3 heroes. It's Slark, Morphling, and Ursa. I'm gonna start with Slark, and I think Slark is absolutely phenomenal generally, right? Especially like the right facet is absolutely phenomenal. I think the reason why Slark is A tier is because there is a lot of fighting right now, and you get something like Diffusal, Mage Slayer, Aghanim, SNY, depends which facet you're gonna go for both. They're both playable, right? And you can just run them down on the nighttime. His laning stage is pretty nice, and you get to scale really well against most offlaners, right? So as a result, Slark is a great hero. You can even like second phase this hero because there are a lot of supports that you get to synergize as well, right? So basically Slark is an A tier, and you can't really go wrong with Slark unless you get to pick in a really hard counter. But even like most heroes that you get countered from, for example, heroes like Leshrac or Timber, so if you just buy Mage Slayer and you just hit them, and at some point you buy BKB, you really don't have a hard time. And what does Slark in reality, in the laning stage at least, he gets to struggle against? In the past, it used to be something like double range, for example, Death Prophet or something, right? That you would just never die. But these heroes are outside of the meta. There are a lot of Crystal Maidens and Jakiro that you get to synergize really well. And there are a lot of Dawnbreakers. We've seen a lot of Darks here. There are a lot of melee position 3. And well, Slark loves to have melee, especially if you have something like with a slow as a support, right? So it's great. It's great. Slark is in a really good spot, right? And you just get to snowball, and especially in the nighttime, of course. In 7.38, the warding areas are still so weird, and they're not really common warding areas. As a result, Slark, you get to actually deward everything on the map, so that's a great bonus. Now we're gonna go to the Morphling. Now, there's not much to say about the hero, other than the fact that I actually hate the hero. It's on the same category as Terrorblade. Hero is great. It's Morphling is somehow like an insect. Even after a nuclear bomb, somehow this hero survives, and it's always really good, sadly. And why do I hate the hero? Basically, it's like a Terrorblade where the hero might be really nice, but the player is always going to be pretty bad, and he's going to tilt me, and he's not going to play the hero on the full potential. Now, if you're not some kind of 2, 3, 4, 5, even 6k MMR and you pick Morphling, don't. Most likely you suck, right? Even I suck at the hero. Not even. I'm pretty bad at it. I'm never gonna play that. I don't like it. Too many buttons, and at some point I'm probably going to fail it and die and lose a game. So don't pick the hero unless you're really confident and really high MMR, right? But why is Morphling really nice? Well, in reality, you don't die in the lane stage, you scale really well, you buy 2 items, you split push with items like Manta Styling, you create a lot of space, and you scale infinite in the late game. Even if you play versus natural counters like a Slark, for example, you're still gonna buy items like Butterfly, items like Hurricane Pike, that are gonna get you out of the pounce, right? So basically Morphling is A tier because he scales really well, he lanes really well, but you just don't come as online as the S tier, and at the same time the hero requires a lot of skill to be played. Now we have Ursa. Ursa is pretty much the same as a Slark when it comes to the laning stage. Again, you get to love to have something like with a slow, like a CM, Jakiro, and you get to punish most offlaners, most melee offlaners right now, right? The fact that I like Ursa is because you get to also pick up the Shard, most likely solo, and you get to get Roshan, just like a Beastmaster, and you get to snowball. And this is what Dota is all about. Fool around a little bit in the laning stage, snowball, win the lane, and then after 10-15 minutes in, you just pick up a dagger and you just fight. And sadly, this is the meta right now. And since the meta is fighting right now, of course, we have the S tier. And the S tier is, of course, the ultimate fighting heroes. We have Nature's Prophet, Phantom Assassin, and Templar Assassin. I'm gonna start with Nature's Prophet. It's not that he's strong, it's not that his laning is strong, it's that he has a global presence. And that was the case forever. While the map is getting bigger all the time, Prophet is always going to become stronger, right? His laning stage is really nice. You buy items that you're gonna farm like a Maelstrom and a Mjolnir, then you pick up something like a Shard and you have something like a semi-global presence when you can see everything. You take towers and you scale infinite because you can split push infinite. So definitely Prophet is really good. Now, the problem with Prophet, in my opinion, is that many times you are going to get focused in the laning stage, let's say something like a combo, because Prophet is kind of a squeeze hero early on, so you need to have something like a support that's going to protect you, right? Like maybe like a Task, a CM, a Jakiro, like a Marcy. These are the famous combos, the easy combos to spot, right? Otherwise, you're going to play slightly more safe, because I've seen many Nature's Prophet actually dying. Now we're gonna go to PA. I think P is really nice because, again, you just get a Battle Fury, and just with Battle Fury and Methodical, you can just actually fight. And of course, all the meta items, which like pretty much SNY, BKB, Abyssal, Nullifier, PA gets to buy. And your laning stage is actually pretty nice. You can buy something like an Orb of Corrosion, of course, if you want to like snowball in the laning stage, which I don't really like as a player, Orb of Corrosion on Phantom Assassin, but I've seen a lot of players actually doing it, right? Of course, PA, the most important thing also is that she's really good against Beastmaster offlane. Why? Because you usually buy something like a Blight Zone and you just dagger the boars and you just get to kill them, right? So definitely PA is there. And of course, the build is usually the same, something like Battle Fury, SY, BKB. Phantom Assassin is the same build for the last like 15 years, it feels like. Now Methodical, of course, you're gonna have SNY instead of Desolator, but the concept is still the same, right? And of course, just with the Battle Fury, you get to farm really fast, which is not the case for most Battle Fury carriers. For example, you can just buy a naked Battle Fury and just with Methodical, you're going to farm, right? This hero scales infinite and has like infinite damage. Now, the last hero we're gonna have is actually my really beloved Templar Assassin. After the latest tournament, we saw Satanic's performance in TA. This hero is really nice. I think that this hero, you can even go for Void Blades, you can go for Refractor. It is really interesting what you can go, but I think the same concept is always the same. Wins a laning stage, get something like a Dragonlance, Desolator, Blink Dagger by 15 minutes in, and then just run them down, and yet you get to scale in the late game. Even after your classic items, which like Dragonlance, Deso, Blink Dagger, and Shard, you still get to scale. Items like BKB, Daedalus, MKB, Silver Edge, Sweet Blink, all these items you get to scale infinite and you deal a lot of damage. Of course, I'm gonna say the very obvious. If you're like lower ranked player, you need to be really good with Templar Assassin. Things like positioning, where to jump, how to play the laning stage. Templar Assassin is not an easy hero to be played in the laning stage. I've seen so many players, even in my bracket, they try to melt and they just miss the melt. They try to melt, hit, and they actually move, or they actually miss. And actually TA is an assassin. Unlike Phantom Assassin, which is in my opinion fairly more easy to be played, Templar Assassin is way harder. How to farm, you need to actually use the side blades really well. I'd say that you should stay away from this hero as long as you're a really good TA player, which to be fair, most players are just not. Sorry, like most players just suck. It's not Morphing level or Third Blade level, but most players, they just suck. The laning stage with TA is not as easy as people think. Me on the other side as an offlaner right now, I get to pick a lot of Dawnbreaker, and most of the times we get not only to win against Templar Assassin, we get to stomp against Templar Assassin. Of course, there are some good matchups, for example, if you could play against a Centaur, if you could play against a Tide. These are just some good heroes, but later in the mid game, you need to always be really careful because if you get jumped on, you die, right? You need to be able to use Blink Dagger really fast while you have Refraction on. Generally, the hero is really complex. Yes, it is an S tier, but should you pick it? No, unless you're really damn good. So yeah, this is a tier list and these are the best and the worst heroes right now in 7.38c. I'm pretty sure the meta is gonna change and we're gonna figure things out, but right now these are the best heroes you should play and the worst heroes to actually avoid. So tell me your thoughts about the patch, and as usual, I will try to actually answer to every single question. At least I will try. GG, Raza, and I'll see you on the next video. Hey guys, real quick, if you did like this video, make sure you subscribe, like and comment as it motivates us a lot to keep making these videos and these guides. And of course, make sure you check out our 6-month coaching program. It's almost guaranteed. That's gonna get you to the next metal, if not metals. The link is gonna be down in the descriptions. Make sure you click it and apply right now.